Hi everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know I've been away for a while. Had some crazy stuff going on at home, but I am trying to get back into the swing of things. And based on recent events with deaths and bereavement, I wanted to talk a bit today about honoring your animal's wishes. So what I mean by that is when I speak to animals that are about to transition, people often ask them things like, how can I honor you after you've passed? Is there something special you'd like us to do with you before you pass? Is there something special you'd like us to do with your body, with your ashes, with your bed, with your collar? And it's really interesting. Some animals are very general about what they want done. Some animals are very specific. So I was just thinking I just remember now there was a horse that I spoke to, and the lady asked the horse if he was already in spirit, if he would be okay with her getting another horse, because she hadn't for many years, because her heart was still very sore from the loss of him. And he was absolutely okay with it. I've been doing this for a while, and I've never once come across an animal who has an issue with someone getting an animal after that animal passes. So if that ever bothers you, don't fret about that. So the horse didn't have a problem with her getting another horse. His only specific request was that the lady didn't use his saddle with the new horse. And I presented that information to the lady, and she got all weepy, and she said, that the saddle had come to her via a very specific way, and the saddle and the horse and her just had this special thing going, and she actually had the saddle on display in her house. So it was interesting how this horse seemed to be aware of that and specifically requested that the saddle not be used for the new horse. There was another occasion going deeply into honoring your animal's wishes. I spoke to a dog called Dog, and I got contacted by her guardians, and Dog had been ill for a while and had deteriorated quite rapidly, and I think this was perhaps a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and they asked specifically for an emergency reading. So if you don't know, I normally have a 2 to 3 week waiting list, but I keep certain times of the week for harvesting vegetables or doing emergency readings for animals. So, if there is an emergency, as in this case, they weren't sure they could hang on 2 to 3 weeks. They needed the reading then and there to check in with Dog and find out how she was feeling, explain to her what was going to happen, ask if she had any specific requests to how things wanted to be handled that day. The vet was apparently coming to the house, and I had to let her know that this was going to happen. And they had booked the vet to come on the Friday. This was the Tuesday or the Wednesday. And when I spoke to Dog, yes, she was very ill, and yes, she was frail. But when I mentioned about the vet coming on Friday, there was this like, hang on a second. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, this dog isn't ready to go. This dog does not want to be put down. And then it's like, oh my God, how am I going to handle that? And I did the whole reading. There was a whole bunch of things that they asked, and this big conversation went on, and I got back to them later that night and just said, look, this dog's not ready to go. She's not well, fair enough, but she's not ready to go. And these are all the things that she said. And they cancelled the vet's appointment immediately. And incredibly, this dog rallied and went to live for another, I think it was just under 6 months. And one of the things they asked me to ask her was, if you're not ready, can you give us a sign? And this is a common question. Can you give us a sign when you are ready? So when you are ready to have help to be put to sleep, when you are ready to pass, when you are ready to have those final things being taken into consideration. And this dog had a very specific thing which she would be unable to do. And when that thing happened, she would then be ready. And after 5 or 6 months, that specific thing started to happen. And they reached out to me again. And sure enough, she was like, okay, I'm done now. I'm ready when you are, type of attitude. And it was a complete turnaround to how I'd spoken to her 6 months before. And she was happy then to let go. She was really quite ill. She could just about walk at that stage. But she enjoyed all those extra months. And it's incredible. You know, sometimes we think the animal's ready because we're like, oh, you know, I don't want to see them in pain and I don't want them to suffer. And in this case, you know, she wasn't suffering. She wasn't suffering. She was aware of her deterioration, but she wasn't ready to go. And in fact, they sent me videos of her running around fields and all sorts of things in those months afterwards. So that was a happy way of honoring animals' wishes. Animals also have specific requests about what to happen to their belongings. I had one, I can't remember now if it was a cat or a dog, that was very specific about having its collar hung over a photograph. It was the picture it gave me was as clear as day. And the lady said that she was really pleased because she'd hung onto the collar and she had various photographs of this animal in her house, but she wasn't really, you know, aware or thinking about how can I tie these two together. And I just described this image that the animal had given me, and she just said, oh, of course, you know. And she just hung the little collar over the photograph, and you know, that was great. I had a cat who specified that it wanted its ashes to be scattered under a very specific tree in a field. It wasn't even in the person's garden, but it was close by. It was obviously part of this cat's territory. And I remember when I did the reading, and I was like, okay, it's this massive tree, and I can see, you know, I can see green, and there's a road along here, and there's a little fence. Okay, so it's under this tree, right? Okay, so it's under this tree. And when I had the video follow up, excuse me, with the guardian afterwards, and I said, oh, you know, I incorrectly assumed, oh, you know, do you have a tree in your garden? And she went, no. And all of a sudden my stomach sank, and I thought, oh no, have I got this wrong? And I was like, no, come on, trust, you know, this cat gave you this entire picture. So I start describing the picture, and she went, oh yes, that's the tree. We have this park around the back of us. And I just thought, oh my gosh. So when I described it, she said, okay, no, we know where that is. And so yes, they sprinkled her ashes under that specific tree, just like she requested. I have also, I mean, those are all the happy ones, and you know, people are often very keen to do exactly what their pet requests because they love them. And it's much like if you're a newsletter subscriber, I think I mentioned in my newsletter about with my mother-in-law having passed away recently, and she had a very specific request about what needed to happen with her ashes. And there was a bit of a family discrepancy when she passed. And my husband was like, no, that's what she wanted. She's always wanted that, and that's what she wanted. We have to honor her wishes. And this family member was like, well, you know, that's not very practical. And we were like, it's nothing to do with being practical. You can't do that. If, you know, as much as possible, if someone wants their ashes disposed of in a certain way, you know, providing it's possible and legal, and you know, you, in this case, it is. So there was a bit of a discrepancy, and it got me thinking about how people have these requests, have these questions for the animals, and the animals have their requests back. 99% of the time, people honor those requests. But sadly, I have had one reading where it wasn't honored, and that was heartbreaking, I must say. It was for a dog, and the dog was about to be put down for various reasons. And when I spoke to the dog and I explained, as I always do, I explain that the vet will come to the house, and I explain the process very kindly, and I explain that the animal won't feel any pain, and, you know, are there any messages that they want to give back? And this dog wasn't ready. This dog just wasn't ready. And it was really heartbreaking, much like the story earlier on when the dog said to me, "Oh, hang on a second, and I got back to the guardians and I just said, "Oh, the dog isn't ready to be put to sleep," and they cancelled the vet appointment immediately, and the dog went on to live for 5-6 more months. In this case, there were multiple people living in this house, and the person who I did, so there's like multiple guardians, if you like, sort of three guardians. And I did the reading on behalf of one of the guardians. And when I'd finished the reading, I said, when I did the reading, I said that this dog's not ready. It's not ready to be put to sleep. It's still got a lot of life in it, and it still has a zest and a desire to keep going. And sadly, the other two guardians overruled the decision, and the dog was put to sleep. And that was hard. That was really, really hard, because I, in some way, feel a little responsible, because I've spoken to the animal and I've earned its trust, and I've exchanged messages with it. And then the animal says to me, "I'm not ready to go." And I go, "Okay, I understand." And I'll feed that message back. And yeah, I can't find the words all of a sudden, but it's not always easy. So if you do have animals and you go out of your way to pay me money to connect with your animal, to ask them those questions, then please listen to what your animal has to say, because what's the point? What's the point of giving them a chance to voice their opinions and their needs and their fears and their love if you aren't going to value it, if you aren't going to take it into consideration? I know, yes, there'll always be exceptions. If surgery is going to cost, $10 squillion for you to fix your animal's heart problem, and you can't do it. But that's fine, because I can explain that to the animal. The animals don't hold grudges. Animals know love. They know connection. They know bond. So they're not going to feel resentment, like, "Oh gosh, mum's putting me down because she doesn't have the money." It's not like that. But it's, if an animal says, "I want to be held by you when I'm put to sleep," please don't then say, "Oh no, that'll be too hard for me." That animal needs you there in that moment of transition. Your animal has requested your presence in that moment of transition. Please don't deny it that. If an animal wants to lie on its favorite blanket when it gets put to sleep in the house, don't put it on the kitchen counter. Don't put it on the floor. Don't take it outside. Put it on its favorite blanket, because what's the point in asking it all those things if you're not going to listen to it? So that's my rather serious and semi-emotional YouTube video for today. I have a few more ideas of other videos coming your way. I was just going to get them all down on paper and get them recorded. So let me know what you think of this one. And if you've lost an animal, and if you had any idea what it wanted before it passed, and how did you deal with it? Woo, heavy stuff. I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.